Welcome to another episode of the Self Study Show. My name's Ant Austin, and I'm here with Joe Norris. Say hello, Joe.
Hello. Hello.
Today, we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at some strategies for giving negative self-talk the finger. But as always, it's really important to understand where imposter syndrome comes from, what it is, and how it's programming and working automatically, and it's leading us into our results. So I'm going to get straight into the presentation, which, just to remind you, is imposter syndrome. Give negative self-talk the finger. So what is imposter syndrome? Well, it's that voice in our head that tells us we're not good enough. So we go out to do something that we really want to do. And then when we go out to actually do it, something's telling us you're not good enough, you're not capable, you're unable to do this, you're not qualified, you can't do this. Other people can, but you can't. So instead of us being our best coach and our best cheerleader type thing, we're actually our worst enemy because we're becoming our biggest critic. And this is happening on complete autopilot because if you got in the habit of doing this when you were younger, it's now reached your subconscious mind and it's developed into a habit. And a habit is something you do without giving any conscious thought to it. A habit will just move you into action. Like today, when you got up from bed, you didn't stand by your bed and wonder what you were going to do. You just got dressed, did your teeth, got on with your morning routine as you normally do. You didn't really think about it. You just got up and moved into action. That is what a habit is. It's something that we do without giving any conscious thought to it. And imposter syndrome can be one of those things because a habit is built through repetition. So if you're continually telling yourself you're not good enough, you're not qualified, you're not that type of person, you might be I'm a reserved person, so I can't do this public speaking gig. That's down talking yourself. It's negative self-talk and it's imposter syndrome because you want to do something, but then you're telling yourself you can't do it. So then the fear's creeping in. No, you can't do it. So most people then will just drop the idea and make peace with it by going, well, I'm not that kind of person, so I'm not going to do it. Now, that is no way to live. That is no way to live. So we're going to delve into this. So everything in the universe happens by law, and there are so many laws to understand. The trouble with these laws is that most people think they don't exist. And if they hear of them, they might think, oh, that's just mumbo jumbo nonsense. Because we've been trained to think through our physical senses. We've been trained to think through our eyes, our ears, our taste, and our smell. That's how we've been trained to think. Like we'll be at school or something, and be like, watch how this is done. Listen to what I'm saying to you. This tastes like this. It's like no one questions the law of gravity because they can see objects falling from a height. So people can see it, so they believe it. Yet the law of vibration, the law of attraction, the law of cause and effect, you can't see with your eyes. This is where you've got to use your insight, your higher faculties of your mind, because we've got what Napoleon Hill classes as the sixth sense. And basically, what that is our inner understanding. You can close your eyes and you can see. You don't need your eyes to see everything. And one of the laws of the universe is the law of cause and effect. So, negative self-talk, imposter syndrome, that's the effect at the moment. So, what's the cause? Let's have a look at it. Because here's really important because you might be thinking, well, I'm just a negative person and I'm just think this way. I can't think positive. I can't think good things about myself. I can think good things about other people, but not about myself. That's just not who I am. And then a person might look at themselves a little bit deeper and think, well, what's wrong with me? And again, this is the wrong question to ask. The question to ask is, what happened to me? In this case, you, because something from the past happened. Might be multiple things, but there's usually one defining moment that gave you this idea that you're not good enough or you're not able to do something. And because you identified with that idea that someone else normally has thrown at you, it can develop into a thought habit and manifest itself in negative self-talk and imposter syndrome. So let's look at a few examples, some common examples of how this happens. So we're at school, for instance. Might get a sum like this, 1 add 1, and we put the answer as 3. Now, this is a mathematical question, and that answer is wrong. Now, we're going to be told that, no, you're wrong, you didn't get it right. Immediately, because humans are goal-striving machines who want to get things right, you can start questioning yourself, especially if it's a child. And that's the important thing to understand here. Because when you're a child, you're only operating with your subconscious part of your mind for the first 7 years. And then the conscious mind comes in. The issue with this is that the subconscious mind is what drives our behavior. That's where all of our beliefs come from, where they are living, and they are what drives us into action, what we think about ourselves. So up until this point, before this point, we were probably never really told that, we got things wrong or we weren't right. And then we start getting graded upon things like this. So, well, that's wrong. Now, this is one example. And, this is wrong. Sometimes you've got to be told you're wrong. That's how you learn. But the issue is, if this was a piece of artwork or a piece of writing, which is subjective to being right, wrong, because people identify with different things, if we're then being graded, let's say a C or a D on our writing, again, that idea is going into our mind that it's not good enough. Therefore, we're not good enough. And this is primarily what school is kind of doing. It's wanting us to conform to what the school system believes is good enough. Again, so it's very subjective. And therefore, we would look at these teachers and we would think, well, they know everything. And it's the same with our parents or any sort of adults. And we will take what they say as literal, as truth. We will identify with it. We will self-identify with most things they say. I'm not saying all things, but most things we will do that because they're a big authority figure to a child. And whatever they say goes type thing. The trouble with this is that those ideas go into our minds and we start taking their opinions and imposing them upon ourselves. Now, we can do this through school. And then when we get to the point where we leave school and we go out and we get a job, because most people, they won't start their own business right away. They will go into a job. They will get, let's flip the wrong way. They will run into someone like this guy. They will run into a boss, the boss of a company. And now a company is kind of like school because it's kind of got its own way of doing things. And it's therefore got its own version of what success is, its own version of what professional looks like. And therefore, kind of like school, it's going to make you want to dress, act in a certain way. And anything that you do outside those perimeters and that version of what they deem success to be is considered wrong. And therefore, we're just reinforcing all of these ideas that we're not good enough and that we don't fit in or we're not that kind of person. So we're always trying to sort of improve based on someone else. And that's not the way to do it because you're never going to find true fulfillment through doing that. It's like you're building someone else's dream at the expense of your own dream. You're trading your life to fit in with someone else's life, so it's benefiting them, could be benefiting them financially, emotionally, but then it's at the detriment of you and your happiness and your well-being and how you feel. And the result of that is that when we go out to do something on our own, and then let's say start a business of our own, we don't have anyone there to sort of tell us, no, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to dress this way, you've got to set this marketing campaign up in this way, you need to talk to people like this to close the sale. Therefore, we've only got our own opinion to rely on, our own thoughts, our own self-talk. We need to then be like our own motivator, the person who gives you confidence, like auto suggestion. It's a suggestion from yourself to yourself. And you've got to continually remind yourself that you're doing well and that you need to appreciate just how far you've come. But if you're in the habit of negative self-talk and you're riddled with imposter syndrome, you've got a battle on your hands. You have a battle on your hands. But it all started through other people's opinions about you. Some right, some wrong, some questionable. But if you've identified with it, then you're going to take it on into your life, and when I say into your life, I mean those moments where you've really got to step out and bet on yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be constricted to the negative self-talk, which has been built up through past experience. And this is how we make sense of the effect, basically. We've made sense of it. So all of this stuff that other people have said about us and graded us on, we've gone, yeah, that's right. We've made sense of it. But actually, we can reevaluate all of that. We can go back and investigate because our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. So if we go back and reevaluate those beliefs, our beliefs about them will change. And therefore, we will change because we will have new beliefs, new energy, and a new motivation to go and take action. We'll increase our self-esteem, our self-confidence, and we will go out there and be who we really are. We're not being someone else's version of success and trying to fit in with that. We are being who we are. And here's the thing, you were born to stand out, but society is set up in a way to make us feel that we have to fit in. And we really don't. As long as we're bringing service to the world and we're helping the world and other people in some way, how we choose to do that is entirely up to us because we are all creative beings. And what this leads to is not speaking up for ourselves, negative self-talk, which is automatic, and disempowering thought habits. Now, this is basically what it looks like. This is the physical expression of imposter syndrome, like not speaking up for ourselves. Therefore, we'll probably walk away from a lot of conversations feeling a bit disempowered that we should have said something because we had something good to say, but we didn't back ourselves enough to say it and make a good impression because we thought others would say we were wrong or our opinion wasn't valid, which most of the time is just not true at all, but it's true for us as long as we believe it to be true. That's the important thing to understand here. And the negative self-talk, I've gone on about that a few times. It will be automatic because it's an idea that is just programmed into the subconscious mind. You see a lot of people, you'll probably notice them after you watch this now. Something good happens to them and they will find the negative aspect of it to talk about rather than look at the good and focus on the good. Now, that is just an automatic habit, which bleeds into the third one here, disempowering thought habits, because you will then take this into anything that you want to do or experience. And that is not a good place to be because no happiness can come out of this. No inner peace, calm, none of it can come out of this. It leaves you stuck with that underlying belief that you're not good enough. I mean, that is the big 100,000-foot overview of what you're stuck with. And there's many layers to this belief that you can go through. And there's many tactics to do that. I mean, we've got a program here at Be the Limitless You that we take through with our clients so we can rewrite all of these beliefs. We can identify them, investigate them, rewrite them, and it releases. And our clients report back to us that they literally get instant relief and instant results because of it. Increased happiness, increased courage, self-confidence. They just let it go just through reevaluating that belief. So here's some starter points to give your negative self-talk the finger. Number one, just catch yourself doing it because you've got to become aware of what you're doing. Bob Proctor says it best when he says you can't escape a prison if you don't know you're in one. You've got to be aware of what you're doing, and it's okay to be doing it because you just got to understand that because you got in the habit of doing it, it's now a habit that's running on autopilot. You can change that. So the first point is to catch yourself doing it. And then you'll naturally start making a decision. Well, I don't want to do that all the time. You can consider then, you can entertain the idea of not doing it. You can reason with it because you're becoming aware of what you're doing. Step two, make a written or a mental note of what you are doing and what situations are causing you to say those negative things about yourself, because that will give you more self-awareness to see what's going on. And then you can rewrite this story that's just playing over and over on repeat like a stuck record. You can literally, as soon as you start journaling away or just thinking through it, then you kind of like scratching that needle off the record type thing. You're picking it apart. And number three, yeah, evaluate the situation, which you can do through journaling. And that's basically what I said would look at the situations that are causing you to negative self-talk, because you should not be talking down to yourself on autopilot. Like that's just not right. Because at the end of the day, in order to be your best self for other people, you've got to be your best self to you. In order to love other people, you've got to love yourself first. In order to have a good attitude towards other people, you need to have a good attitude towards yourself first. So that's the end of the presentation. I'll hand it over to Jer. He can put his spin on this. What do you see, Jer?
Yeah, really good presentation, mate. Really, really good. Yeah, really, really quite important one, self-sabotage. So I'm just going to go back a little bit to where Ant, you were speaking about workplace. So you bring up your beliefs from childhood, from school, basically, where Ant was touching on. And then you bring them into the workplace. And again, it's a familiar situation. You've got a boss, you got to go at the same time, you have to dress in a certain code. So it's very a mimic school, like, it's very parallel with it. And then Ant touched on that when you go to start your own business or move up in your career that you come into like self-doubt and self-sabotage. But the first thing that came to me when you said that, Ant, was lots of people don't even move up. They actually have self-negative talk to themselves their whole life that they don't have the courage to move on, to start that business, to go for that managerial role, to even change career. Because exactly what you said, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to start a business. I don't know how to do it. Nobody in my family has ever started a business. I can't do that managerial job because I just don't know how to do it. I'm not good enough. And that is so important. And it's 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 years of conditioning yourself. The frightening thing is you're actually doing this to yourself with self-negative talk because without you realizing, because it's automatic, that you're basically saying that you're not good enough, I can't do this, I can't do that automatically. And after a while, some people don't even realize they do it. Now, I can guarantee if I said to you, do you know somebody in your workplace who's Mr. Negative every day? And you all say, yes, I know who that man or woman is. But that person probably doesn't even realize he's Mr. Negative because he or she has just built that habit of coming into work and moaning about everything. And deep down, they're not actually a negative person. They've just created the habit of being a negative person. So they actually, if they had the awareness to look at themselves, like Anne pointed out in the second last slide, to have the awareness to look at yourself, stop your negative thought process when that thought comes in, then you could change that habit. You could change your characters or your characteristics of yourself. So, but people are unaware because self, they've been living in this negative self-sabotage and negative talk for so long. So the one thing I'd love you to take away from this show today is get into the habit of looking at yourself. Get into the habit of looking at your thoughts. Watch yourself over the next couple of weeks. See if you can pinpoint little traits, little characteristics of negative self-talk. And then yes, journal. Well, why am I speaking like this? Why am I thinking like this? And yeah, you'll start to see characteristics and traits that are causing these situations. But once you start watching it, then that's the first step to stopping it. Because once you break that habit of the thought process, you stop it. So now you're interfering with that thought process because you're becoming more self-aware. So that would be a great tip to take away today. And I think on that note, we are going to wrap it up, I think, coming to the end of our show. So just going to say about next week's show is I'm actually going to take and speak about a chapter of Ant's book, which you can see just over his left shoulder, is Who the Hell Are You? So one of his chapters is You Are Electric. So I'm going to do a little presentation on how we are electric, which is quite interesting. And I'm going to speak a little bit about meditation and how electrical wavelengths in different states of meditation, um, get us into different areas of meditation while we're meditating as well. And we're all electric. So it's all linked together through the electrical system and the nervous system within our body. So on that note, Ant, do you want to wrap up your presentation today?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, looking forward to next week doing a chapter of my book. So that'll be good. I think the way we're going to wrap this one up is this imposter syndrome, the negative self-talk, is what Joe said there, the the one takeaway that you should do for the next week is just catch yourself doing it, and that is the first step to stopping it. It really is. Because going back to the Bob Proctor quote, you cannot escape from a prison if you don't know you're in one. And in this case, you cannot talk positive about yourself if you don't know you're talking negative about yourself. So the first step is just literally catch yourself doing it. That's the first step to stopping it. We hope you got some value today. We look forward to seeing you next week for Jer's presentation on You Are Electric. So looking forward to that one.
See you
See you
next
next
week.
time.